Welcome everyone to our free
Welcome.
masterclass, The Power of the Breath. We're so glad you're here. And we're going to get started, but I'm going to share our screen because we're using a little slideshow presentation so that we have nice graphics and visuals. So let me share. Okay. Can you see? Everybody see this all right? There we go. All right. I'm just trying to set it up so you guys can see it. So what we want to say is we are really excited about this content. A lot of you are, we're talking to the choir here when we're talking about the breath body and how important it is because you take yoga classes, and we talk about this a lot in yoga. And so to start, I thought it might be really nice for us to just take a moment to connect to our own breathing. So just sit quietly. You can close your eyes if you like. And take a moment to connect to your own natural rhythm. We all have our own natural breathing cycle, just like we have our own fingerprints. And without trying to manipulate it in any way, just notice it and what naturally occurs when your body is breathing. This is what we're going to call your baseline. This is where you live most of the time. And thank goodness that our breath is an automatic nervous system action. We don't have to think about it. Our body just breathes. But we have a lot of things that affect the breath. So you can go ahead and open your eyes. I don't know why this looks different. All right, like this little breathing elephant guy. So the breath is one of the most powerful tools that we actually have for staying calm and centered. Every system in the body requires oxygen. From cognition to digestion, effective breathing can not only provide you with a greater sense of mental clarity, it also helps you sleep better, digest your food more efficiently, improves your body's immune response, reduces your stress levels. So when our blood is highly oxygenated, it becomes really difficult for viruses and bacteria to grow in the body because we're working in this really efficient status. On average, a person at rest takes about 16 breaths per minute. Now, if you're an athlete, that becomes less. And if you're very sedentary, it becomes more, but that's an average. So we breathe about 960 breaths an hour, 20,000 breaths a day, 8 million breaths a year. This is Chris's statistics. She loves this stuff. If we live to be 80, we will take 672 million breaths in a lifetime. Why not make every breath count?
So unfortunately, we couldn't get the Canva document to do some of those pictures or GIFs, and they move. And especially I wanted to do it with this picture of the diaphragm, but you'll just have to use your imagination. So this is a really good picture of the lungs with the diaphragm underneath. And so the lungs are covered with nerves that connect to both sides of the autonomic nervous system. So that's the sympathetic and parasympathetic. And as you know, we need both. So many of the nerves that are connected to the parasympathetic are located in the lower lobes of the lungs. And this is important because if you're a shallow chest breather, guess what? You are activating those sympathetic the ones that connect to the sympathetic nervous system. So it's going to keep you in that fight or flight, even if you're not stressed or nervous. You know, and so many people. I was telling Sue earlier, staying with my daughter, and we were watching Bridgerton, which of course is kind of dumb, but whatever. But because of that constriction with what they used to wear, and if you've seen it, you'll notice they're all really chest breathers. All of the women's boobs are heaving. You know, they take a deep breath in, the boobs go up and down, and some of it I'm sure is for effect, but definitely when we restrict, the lungs and the diaphragm, we can't take a full deep breath. And the reason that taking those slow, deep breaths is so relaxing is because of that connection with the parasympathetic sympathetic nervous system. So, the majority of the nerves for the sympathetic nervous system are located in the upper chest. So, when you're an upper chest breather, it activates that fight or flight or freeze. And the diaphragm, which you can see in both slides, but in the one to the right, it was the GIF was really cool because it would show you that movement of the diaphragm. And I often get this kind of, it moves up as you breathe out. So it's really trying to express the breath out of the lungs. And then as you breathe in, especially since it's connected to the bottom of the lungs, it works like a bellows and it pulls the lungs down, creating room for that deep breath. And on top of not just the nerve connection, just by gravity, the majority of the blood is in those, I can't think of how you say the word correctly, but the little sacs at the bottom of the lungs. What is it? Alveoli? Alveoli.
Alveoli.
Right.
Thank you.
So, you want to access that blood flow. And so the diaphragm, with its movement, when you're exhaling, it actually presses up on the lungs, and then the lungs will give a little heart massage. And then as you're breathing in and they're filling up, it presses down on the organs of the belly, especially the adrenals and the kidneys. So if you're not breathing fully, you miss that massage, which, as we said earlier, what is it, 23,000 times a day. So you want to keep the breath full because, in addition to that, there's so many other benefits, and we'll go through a few through this presentation. And the other thing with a constricted diaphragm, it again decreases that ability to breathe deeply and fully. And some of the causes are anxiety, fear, poor posture, and sitting too much. So they seem to be very much lifestyle induced.
Right. Yeah. And just like Chris was saying about Bridgerton, when they're wearing the corsets, the way our posture typically is, Cindy must have, there she is. The way our posture typically is, we're kind of crouched forward, and it closes off the ability for the diaphragm to move well. So posture is a huge one. And, if you guys haven't heard this term by now, sitting is the new smoking. Like if you sit all the time, your increased risks for diseases are very high. And sitting is not considered a good posture at all for good deep breathing. It's really hard to do. And you'll find out in a little while. So let me go to the next slide. So I get to talk about my fave, the vagus nerve.
I totally spelled that wrong.
You did. I wasn't going to say anything.
And it's even underneath. Oh my.
Oh goodness. Okay. So the vagus nerve makes up the largest component of the body's parasympathetic nervous system. And you can see this yellow, I'm pointing to it like you can see my hand, this yellow innervated nerve, how it goes all through the belly and basically touches on most of the organs in the core body, heart, lungs, thyroid gland. And it carries an extensive range of signals to and from the brain, but mostly from the digestive tract. Think of it as like a highway communication system back and forth. We also call it the wandering nerve because it innervates so many things in the body. It goes from the brainstem through the neck and thorax down into the abdomen. So what we call vagal tone means that the vagus nerve is actually functioning optimally. It's toned, it's vital, it's active, it's not constricted and not functioning. So when you have good vagal tone, it can regulate your stress responses and can influence your breathing. So a little story about myself. This was way long time ago. I was sitting in a bad situation in my marriage. I was going to therapy and I kept yawning. I was driving to my therapist's office. I kept yawning and yawning. And I was like, what's the matter with me? I'm not tired. And I got to the therapist's office and she said, you're having an anxiety attack. And I said, I don't have anxiety. And she said, yes, you are. And now, of course, I know that my diaphragm was completely constricted because my vagus nerve was not toned. I was getting this signal about stress and anxiety that I was feeling in the situation I was in, but I wasn't acknowledging it. And of course, I didn't know anything about it. So now I know. It's so interesting to like look back at your relationships and your experiences and go, oh, that's what was going on. So deep diaphragmatic breathing is one of the most effective and simplest ways to stimulate this vagus nerve, the most. And so Chris is going to lead us through a little exercise right now before we move on.
All right, so we're going to do this seated. And what I'm going to ask you to do, as you saw in that very first slide, is a hand on the belly, low belly. So I like to have my thumb at about the navel, and then my pinky finger is right above the pubic bone, and then a hand somewhere on your chest. Close your eyes, and you're sitting tall because, again, that posture has a lot to do with how well your lungs function. Close your eyes. Take a few calming breaths just to get an idea, as we did in the beginning, of where you are. So imagine your torso is a glass, and what we're going to do is we're going to fill this glass with a breath. So as if you're filling a glass with water. So, and as always, breathing in and out through the nose. A nice deep full breath in, and let it fill the belly first. So as you soften the muscles of the belly and you fill it with the breath, you should feel your belly extend into your hand. And then the exhale, the belly, you start to move the breath out from the top, as if you're taking now that glass and dumping it, and slowly exhaling from the top to the belly. And just continue to do that. And then on your next exhale, we're going to just start by when you get to the bottom of the breath. So again, you're exhaling from the top down. As you get to the low belly, I want you to start to draw the navel back towards the spine, just to help get that last little bit of exhale out. And then again, softening the belly. Breathe in and see how the breath just naturally moves deep into the belly. So the top hand is still, and the movement is coming from the belly. So if it's hard for you to get that movement in the belly, you may be someone who holds the belly too tight. So we want to really soften as we breathe in. And then that tiny bit of constriction on the exhale. And just about 3 more rounds at your own pace. And then after your next exhale, just let the hands rest somewhere in your lap. Let the breath return to normal. And just notice, how do you feel? You can open your eyes when you're ready. So, do you feel a little calmer, a little more relaxed? Hopefully, yes. So, what I love about the breath and its power is you can do it anywhere, anytime, any place. There's so much wisdom in that stop, take a few deep breaths. And the more we do that, the more we are training our body to do that on a regular basis. So just begin by noticing um, what your breath patterns are. So there's a lot of science that also connects this idea of being a mouth breather. And even when you exercise, and I learned this years ago in while I was teaching yoga classes in my neighborhood, that by breathing through your nose during exercise, and Sue knows this also, once you get to a point where you feel like, oh, I've got to take this deep, full breath in through my mouth, that's your body signaling to you to slow down and keep the breath nice and even. It puts you in a very meditative space. It will also, over time, build up your endurance. So, really important to shut your mouth and breathe for the most part. There's definitely times if you're congested and you cannot breathe in and out through the nose, you have to use, like Sue has been for, allergy season,
Wow.
you have to breathe in and out through your mouth. But there are some real consequences to this. Again, it stimulates that fight or flight, and you're always triggering your stress response. So you're in this constant state of alertness. You're looking around, oh my gosh, because your body doesn't know the difference. They don't know there's not a lion getting ready to chase you out in the wherever a lion would be. Um, and if you have any of these symptoms, like if you have any of these symptoms, you may be a mouth breather, which I think is the next, no, it's not the next slide. So if you have a dry mouth, if you snore, if you have bad breath, if you're hoarse, if you have brain fog, or if you feel tired and irritable when you wake up, you may be a mouth breather. And a lot of us don't know if we snore or not, especially if you live alone. If you live and sleep in the same bed with somebody, they'll probably let you know. But if you don't, then you don't know that you're snoring at night. And there's so many consequences to that alone. Sleep apnea, all of that. It really detrimental to the health, to your health. And one of the simplest things that you can do that I've done is use a little mouth tape, and it's becoming more widely used, and people are don't think it's so weird. And it's just a little piece of medical tape, and you can get the kind that it's not, it's for sensitive skin, and you just do this. This is what I do. I curl my teeth around, curl my lips around my teeth, put a little piece, and I mean it's probably this big, here to here. You can still, if you need to, breathe out of the sides of your mouth. And it will really, it might not completely keep you from snoring, but it'll really cut down on the amount of snoring. And as you can see from this picture, there's many consequences to being a mouth breather. So from anxiety to cardiovascular conditions. So, a big negative effect if you're breathing through your mouth. And, eventually it's going to lead to disease, whether it's in the body or in the mind.
And I just want to inject a little thing here from my fitness past, which I find so fascinating, knowing what we know now and all these books that are out and all the research that's coming out. But when I was in fitness doing personal training, and this was probably 15 years ago, I was actually in a conference learning about this new training technique for cardiovascular fitness. And, you know, back in the day, it was like 220 minus your age and this number and that number. But this particular physiologist was talking about if you put you on a bike and he takes you up into increments until you get to what we called your body's threshold. This is, Chris was talking about this earlier. And you're breathing through your nose the whole time, right? The minute you have to open your mouth to take the breath, that was considered your body's threshold or set point. And whatever number that was on your correlated heart rate monitor was your threshold number. You weren't supposed to bypass that. You were supposed to stay within that. And over time, and we know this from yoga, we know this from Ayurveda, the fitness people have all picked it up. Over time, you breathe through your nose enough and you keep pushing your body a little bit more each time, the capacity of your lungs and your diaphragm get greater. So we know this through pranayama and yoga. We know it now through fitness. When I go hiking here, I try to breathe through my nose the whole time because I know how valuable it is. So going with that idea of like, stop breathing through your mouth unless you're, you know, getting chased by a lion.
And you may also, you know, even if you're not a nose breather, you might be a shallow chest breather. And this also, again, you know, you're just constantly stimulating these nerves in the upper chest that then stimulate your sympathetic nervous system, put you in that constant fight or flight. So things like holding your breath, always feeling short of breath, like you can't get a deep enough breath, um, feeling that need to take a really long breath, running out of breath, and taking lots of short breaths. And my one daughter happens to be a chest breather, and I can hear it when I talk to her on the phone. It's almost like she's gulping for breath. And she's always tired and she's always yawning. And of course, she's my daughter, so she doesn't ever want to listen to me. So I just, okay. But, you know, not to call her out, but I think there's many people when I'm out, like taking a walk or something, and I hear people running, you know, and not even like hard, but they have been trained to breathe in and out through their mouth. And it's just what they believe when they're doing physical exercise, that the more physical they are, the harder they're breathing, the better it is. They're going to expel more calories and really get in a good workout, sweat more, all that stuff. And it's just not true. We want to increase our endurance. So, and over time, again, this can have major health consequences.
So just as we talk about consequences of not breathing well and mouth breathing, there are benefits to breathing well. Here they're listed: lowering blood pressure, reducing your heart rate. So it's interesting, right? We do cardiovascular fitness. Why? Because we've been told that it will lower our blood pressure, reduce our heart rate, improve our cardiorespiratory health. All those are true. But look what breathing well does. It does the same. Massages digestive organs, reduces muscle tension, decreases stress, and helps the body to restore back to a state of calm. And deep breathing has been shown, research now, to be a really effective tool when managing our health conditions. So if you've ever gone through any kind of, you know, health situation, have you ever found yourself just trying to take some nice deep breaths to calm yourself down? Like, oh, I'm going to the dentist to get a root canal. Or I remember when I had to have my surgery, I mean, I was listening to calming music and I was doing all my yoga meditation and my breathing because I was trying to keep my body in this calm state. So our nervous system flows to every tissue of the body. Every organ, every tissue gets innervated by this nervous system response, which is why which is how you breathe which is why how you breathe has such a strong effect on how you feel. And we can take control of our own well-being just by using this tool. It's really simple. Additional benefits that we can get that aren't listed on this slide. It improves the quality of life with people that have asthma and COPD. They're really restricted, but if they can tap into this parasympathetic nervous system and help their body respond versus react to whatever's going on, then it will help their quality of life. Helps manage depression and anxiety. It relieves symptoms of IBS and irritable bowel syndrome and all kinds of digestive issues. And it helps reduce tension if you get headaches. So I have IBS. I used to say I had it, but I get little bouts of it here and there. So I think my body is still trying to go through that. Had I known this then, because this was back in the 80s when I was dealing with it pretty severely, I would have used this tool seriously, because it would have really helped me and I didn't know it. So this is why Chris and I get super passionate about sharing this information, because maybe there's a little nugget that we're talking about and you go, oh my God, I could totally do that.
And it's so simple and it's here, it's right here all the time. It's nothing you have to buy, it's free. It's just having that awareness and taking the time to practice.
Right. So this slide's talking about slow diaphragmatic breathing and what it does. It helps to stimulate this rest and digest response, which Chris told you the reason is because our nerve endings are down in the lower lungs. And when we stimulate that lower deep lung breathing, we can stimulate this rest and digest response. So it can help with our immune response, so important today. It helps with the digestion. I've already mentioned that. It has the ability to help us relate to ourselves and connect with others, relaxes our muscles, decreases our heart rate, and triggers our cell to repair and regenerate. And this we know when we're in a fight or flight response, whether we realize it or not, our body is just trying to stay in the moment and take care of us in the moment. It has no ability to like go outside itself. So if you're trying to have a relationship, say, and you're in this constant state of fight or flight, you don't have the ability to relate. And people don't even think about that, but it's a big deal. So deep diaphragmatic breathing, and I won't watch anybody as I read this, starts and begins with great posture. So everybody's going to like sit up straight and do all that stuff, right? So when you sit up straight, it allows the lungs to have that full capacity and be able to expand and contract efficiently. So when we're sitting up straight, the air travels into the lungs and the carbon dioxide travels out of the lungs unimpeded. But if you're sitting at your desk and you feel foggy or otherwise uninspired, take a moment to reposition your body, sit up straight, and notice an immediate improvement at how well your oxygen is reaching your bloodstream and thereby your brain. So it's just that simple little, are you slouching? Do you lean back? Do you like sit on your phone or on your computer? Do you read a book? Whatever you're doing, if you're in a non-upright neutral spine position, you are affecting your breathing. So there's that piece right there. So many people focus on completely inhaling in order to improve their breathing, but exhaling 70% of your carbon dioxide is in your lungs. And when you exhale, you actually release that. And we know in yoga, we focus on the exhale. Chris did it a little bit in that exercise where you drew the belly back into the spine to help you deepen that exhale experience. When you do that, the inhale naturally expands. What happens if you do too much inhaling? You hyperventilate. Your body will go into a hyperventilation response and it will pass out to make you stop it. So have you ever been in that kind of situation? That's why they tell you to breathe into the bag so that you're actually breathing in your own carbon dioxide so you can get rid of that response. And when you breathe well, it helps you just all over with energy, vitality, focus, physical ability to move around. There's so many benefits to just paying attention to the breathing.
So, just a little bit more about this idea of the exhale. So, people that suffer from breathing issues, asthma, COPD, it's not that they can't get the air in, they can't get the air out. So, there's not room for a full inhale. And a lot of people are, as Sue said, are overbreathers. And that often will set you up for bringing in a lot of oxygen, but then breathing it right back out. So instead of the oxygen making it to the tissues of the body, it just comes in and comes back out. So you really want to pay attention to deepening that exhale. And there's a lot of science behind this whole idea. Extending, which we're going to do in a minute, extending the exhale actually alerts your vagus nerve system, the vagus nerve, and increases that vagal nerve tone even more than just that total kind of even rhythm of the inhale and exhale. And all of them are good, but to really be able to extend the exhale, and what we're going to do with this next exercise is we're going to introduce, it's very similar to what we just did, but we're going to introduce a little bit of breath holding, which then when you hold the breath, especially on the exhale, it puts you into a little bit of a hypoxic state. So they call it intermittent hypoxia. And what happens when that occurs is it triggers the body to send the oxygen into the tissues of the body. If you're just breathing a lot of oxygen in and right back out, it never makes it to the tissues. And that's a really big deal, especially for those of us who are older, because it will really help you age better if you're getting, because one of the things that happens as we age is we start to lose that circulation and that blood flow and oxygen flow into our extremities. So to be able to get that into the extremities is crucial to just, again, using the whole body and feeling really good. So I'm going to give you an option here. You can stay seated if that works for you. If lying down makes it more accessible for you, then I would recommend that. As you can see, our little person here is lying down. If we had the little Giphy going, that circle would be doing this, and which just represents, breathing in and out. And even talking about breathing starts to calm me down. I guess I should do that every time Sue and I talk. Anyway, so wherever you are, again, you want to sit well. If you're sitting in a chair, I want you to have both feet on the floor. I happen to be sitting in a higher chair. My feet won't make it to the floor, but luckily there's a rung, and I can kind of place my feet on the rung. And for this one, we're going to put both hands on the belly. So, and what I would recommend, which you probably don't have available, but if you want to do this on your own, in yoga we would often use sandbags, and they're just weighted bags to put on different parts of the body to just create. It's kind of like weightlifting for your lungs, right? So, but the hands will also work well. So hands on the belly, again, same position. So if both hands are on the belly, the pinky fingers are right above the pubic bone, thumbs are around the navel. Let the shoulders descend away from the ears, sitting nice and tall. And you want the chin to be perpendicular to the floor. Close your eyes. And then even with the eyes closed, it's nice to take the gaze of the eyes down towards the heart. And we're going to start again with that same pattern of just breathing well into the belly, and feel the belly expand into the palms of the hands. And then the exhale, the belly starts to move away from the hands. You can add that little belly squeeze. So we're going to breathe in to the count of 2. And then we're going to extend the exhale and breathe out to the count of 4. And on your next inhale, I want you to pause at the top of the inhale for a count of 2. And then again, you're going to breathe out for 4. And at the bottom of the exhale, we're going to pause, hold the breath out to the count of 2. So breathe in for 2, hold for 2, breathe out for 4, hold for 2. If you have just a more capacity, you can switch those numbers. You can go to breathing in for 4, holding for 2, breathing out for 6, holding for 2. So finding your pattern and your rhythm. We're going to continue this for maybe about 3 minutes. And then after your next exhale, just let the breath return to normal. Notice, is your breath naturally fuller and deeper? And then when you're ready, Open your eyes. So, breathing practices, the yogis, of course, knew from thousands of years ago that breathing was so important and such a part of having vital health. And one of the things that, one of the practices in yoga, of course, is pranayama. And they say that, whoever the infamous they are, say that it is not considered pranayama unless you do breath holds. So being able to hold the breath out just a little bit, a beat or two, a count of one or two, can really start to build up your lung capacity. It can start to have an effect on the muscles in and around the diaphragm, which, as we know, the diaphragm is our chief breathing muscle, but also the intercostals play a role in helping to open up the rib cage and creating more space, which is one of the things that yoga does really well, creating space in the body. Really helps with having that bigger lung capacity and being able to breathe deep into the lower lobes of the lungs and fully exhale the breath. So, even just simple breath awareness throughout the day will help you be more alert, be more energized, so many benefits. Um, so well worthwhile and super easy and always available. One of the things that I encourage people to do is when they stop at a stoplight, if they're driving, stop at a stoplight. Use that as the opportunity to take a few deep grounding breaths. If you're standing in line waiting for something, use that as an opportunity to take these really full grounding breaths. And Sue and I are going to be going into this and that connection between our breath and our energy body, our breath body and our energy body in our Empowered Living Module 2 series.
Yeah, and I just want to make a quick analogy, I guess, if you will. Maybe you guys can relate. So remember, we talked about the vagus nerve being connected down into the gut, into the digestive system, into the intestines, right, into the stomach. Did anybody have belly gurgling while they were doing the breathing? Did you happen to notice it? What I have learned from my body worker, who is also an energy worker, is she said that is actually energy moving along with, of course, the physical actions. But the tapping in of that deep breath, I wasn't trying to make it happen. It just did. And I was like, oh, it's working, it's creating this response. And, those who know me know that I've got a lot going on right now. So I'm sort of in this like excitement. No, I got to calm down, excitement. No, I got to calm down place. And then the other thing I want to mention is if you breathe a certain way and you try to shift it, even if it's just a little, it could produce a little bit of anxiety or irritation because it's something your body isn't used to. So it's gradual, it's asking, it's a little bit at a time. You don't have to do it all at once. So I know for myself, I work a lot on 1-on-1 ratio because that's the training that we've had from the Himalayan Institute. But this longer exhale is different than my body's used to. So then I have to actually like work myself into it a little bit. So if you were having either of those responses, then they're normal. All right, the last little bit of this is we want to talk about the Empowered Living course. But before we do that, does anybody have any questions or anything about what we were doing, about the content? Because if you don't want to know about this, then you can just hop off or you can listen. That's fine. We're not going to be on here very long at all. Yeah, Ellen.
You were talking about yawning. What about sighing? When I was working, well, I still work, but really working. One of the guys I worked with used to say, "Why are you sighing? What are you sighing about?" And I did it a lot. And I was wondering if there was any connection with that.
See
Oh,
Chris's head going, yes.
Mhm.
it's your body trying to get a deeper, fuller breath. It's like your body knows. We instinctively know. Um, so think about it. That's what you're
Yeah,
doing, and because you're not being efficient with breathing through your nose, you automatically sign is more of a mouth breathing thing,
right,
and
yeah.
it's like
Totally guilty of, in fact, I'm gonna wear tape around the house because I mouth breathe all the, well, part of it is that, I have the allergy thing going too, but it's also habit, uh, for sure. So I'm gonna do that tape. Okay, and then the other thing was, I think that my alveoli in my brain are closing down. Um, we want to work in the parasympathetic nervous system, correct?
yes,
And so we want to get into the lower lobes to keep that activated.
yes.
Okay, I wasn't sure if I heard that correctly or backwards because I'm getting a lot of that lately.
One of the things that
But
you
if
can
I keep breathing properly, my brain will be so much better.
It will be because you'll
Yeah,
be getting more oxygen to the brain. And one of the really good things to do, and Sue knows this, your diaphragm could be constricted because over time, those muscles, just like the rest of the diaphragm's a big muscle, it gets tight and constricted, is to use some weight on your diaphragm. So what we used to do, we're in yoga class, we'll use sandbags, but you
yeah,
can use if you have a big bag of rice. I wouldn't recommend potatoes. That's a little lumpy. But, something that's a little softer is a big bag of rice, but you can easily online order a sandbag. Is just place it right under your breast. That's where your diaphragm is, right under your bottom ribs, and just place it there and just lay on the floor and breathe in. The hands will also work, and then doing some, and we will be putting some of these in our this next module, the energy, body, and the power of conscious breathing, some exercises that are going to start to help you free up the diaphragm and expand the intercostal muscles. And they're fairly simple, but over time, it's just like any other muscle. You use it or you lose it. If you're not using it well, it becomes tight and constricted and can really have a powerful impact, negative impact on your breathing.
And all the other systems, as you just noted.
so if
And
you wanted to do this practice, the one I did it lying on the floor, how many, twice a day or as
You
many as
could
you want, or
easily do it.
five?
Now, I think a couple of times a day would be plenty.
Okay.
What I like to do is use my phone, set my timer,
Mhm.
you know, or what I've been doing lately with my own breathing practice is just to see how long I naturally can sit in a breath practice is I hit my stopwatch. And then when my body says, okay, you're about ready, I look. And I try to shoot for about 20 minutes, but that's me over time. I would start with 3 to 5 minutes and then set your timer and see how it feels. And then if your body naturally wants to go a little longer, allow it.
Okay. And then I'm wondering if I wear a BiPAP at night, and I'm wondering if that is bothering my breath, because you talk about tense muscle. When I wake up in the morning, my muscles are aching unless I get enough sleep, which is very rare. And this made me think of maybe I need to look into that.
Do you use one of those CPAP machines?
Yes.
Hmm. I don't know enough about them, but I know that if you've been prescribed doing that, it's because of the sleep apnea, and it's
Right.
something that you really need to pay attention to.
yeah, that is one of those things that you probably had the mouth breathing and the sympathetic nervous response going for a long time.
You think?
And then it exacerbated itself into sleep apnea, which is becoming like universal in this culture. So, if we can realize these things early enough, And we can start to train our bodies and re-habitualize ourselves. Like you said, Ellen, it's a habit breathing through your mouth. It absolutely is. So you can train yourself to do it the other way. It just takes a little bit of time. Yes, Cindy. Hang on, sweetie. I need you to unmute.
Yes, I'm getting back to using my CPAP, and it's really, really good for all sorts of things. And so is this conscious breathing practice too. But with CPAP, if you've had a deficit for a long time and you tend to at night have this problem, what it does is it helps you reach, it helps you with insomnia. It helps you reach a deeper level of sleep where the body can actually, the muscles can actually heal. Unless you're getting REM sleep, your muscles can't really heal and do the things that they need to do. So insomnia can affect so many things. It can affect all kinds of things. It can even contribute to cancer, from what I have learned over the years. And so the CPAP is really crucial for me. So I do it, but breathing is something that I probably always, I don't know, I just know that this is important for me, to be doing more in this area, you know, some pranayama and some other things. I've always struggled with, you know, I just, even as a child, I did that sup crying. I did, like, you know, I was a preemie, and I have a feeling that I had issues from the very beginning. You know, I was set at a higher stress level, you know, than other kids, you know, because of being preemie and because of, you know, how I grew up. So all of this is just so good for all of that.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
if the CPAP can help you during the night, like I love what you made that connection about the REM sleep and the deep healing,
Mhm.
then pranayama and the conscious breathing throughout the day can help you during
Right.
the time. And so you're not only doing it at this one time during the night, you're actually helping yourself 24 hours.
Mhm.
And then eventually, I mean, the hope would be that you wouldn't need the CPAP after a while.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And you can also, it's important sometimes to get the doctor that has prescribed the levels of what you need on the CPAP to double check whether you've got the right breath settings, because sometimes it can be under and sometimes it can be over what you need. So it's important to, if you haven't had that, check in with somebody to regulate what your settings should be on your machine. It's good to get that information again too. So anyway, that's all.
Thanks for sharing, Cindy.
Mhm.
Diane, yes.
Are we supposed to do the diaphragmatic breathing all the time, or because I when we went into that, I realized I was not doing that. I was breathing from my chest, and I had to make the switch. So is the expectation that you should do diaphragmatic breathing all the time, or just when you're conscious of doing it twice a day?
No, you should be doing it on a pretty regular basis. We're designed, it's just like our nose is designed for breathing. Our diaphragm is designed to move in that, with that rhythm fully and really help you. Because if you want to be plugged into your parasympathetic, and if you're not breathing fully, you don't get that. So you really want to get into that, the breath moving deep into the lower lobes of the lungs, so that you're in parasympathetic for the most part. Unless
I know,
something's happening where you have to, you know, oh my gosh, I've
right.
got to run from the bear.
I
Well,
know that in real easily. But the breathing out was difficult. And I actually put my hand to see if any air was coming out, and it was coming out one nostril and not the other. I don't know if that happened to anybody else, but I felt like I wasn't getting it out. It was going
well,
somewhere.
that's a deficient diaphragm. The diaphragm isn't strong enough. It's just like if you tried to pick up something that was heavy with your arm, you'd be able to pick up something that was 3 pounds because you could handle it. But if you tried to pick up something that was 10 pounds, your muscle wouldn't be able to do it. So what I wanted to say earlier is that we go in and out of sympathetic, parasympathetic all day long. But what's happening now in our culture is we get stuck in that sympathetic nervous system. We get stuck there. And so now people need these reminders and tools to help them, which is why, you know, this is why it's so important for us to really like sit back a minute and think about what it is that we really need to help our bodies be in this homeostasis. And if you're anxious or worried about something, if you're going through health crises or deaths or big changes in your life, this will kick off that sympathetic nervous system response up in the chest, and you won't be able to do the other. And then it just compounds itself.
Mhm.
So the more you can practice, like Ellen asked a great question about how long and how often. If you could do once a day, if you're not doing it at all, and then up it to twice a day and just no longer than 5 minutes, because your body will start to, I don't know if you felt it, but in the practice Chris led us through at the end, I felt like I could have just stayed there to do that. In the beginning, I felt like I was working a little bit, like
Mhm.
consciously trying to get into a rhythm, but then my body fell into the rhythm, and then I was able to be there. I could have stayed there for another 10 minutes.
Right.
So that's where you want to go.
doTERRA, this one called Breathe,
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
helps with the allergies. I've been doing that every morning and just
Great.
putting it in.
Yeah. I've got stuff all over the house too.
Yeah.
So, what I find fascinating about pranayama is, and movement, okay, yoga and movement and pranayama is, I feel congested, but then when I'm moving around just even a little bit and I'm consciously breathing, my breath opens up.
Mhm.
I don't know if you notice that. And then it'll go back because we go back into what our normal state is, right? And the body remembers, oh, I'm in allergy season, right? But
Mhm.
for that moment in time, you're breathing pretty normally. And you're
Mhm.
like, okay, so I can retrain my body to do that.
Mhm.
And this is where we're going with this new program, this
Mhm.
module. The breath and the energy body are very linked. Just like the breath and the energy body and the physical body are very linked. And in order for us to have any kind of real change in the body, we have to have consistency. So we wanted to do this program with you so that you could take these little tools, these couple little tools, and go home and practice. But if you really want to do something a little bit more immersive for 4 weeks with a group, this is what this program's about. Understanding our energy body, the chakras within the energy body, and the breath body, and how they all play together to help us with our healing, to help us with our, and just going back to the CPAP machine, like it's becoming pretty normal in our culture. Oh yeah, I've got a CPAP machine. Well, how amazing is it that the Western medicine has now understood that our breathing is vital for good sleep.
Yeah.
They weren't talking about that 20 years ago. They didn't even know anything about it 20 years ago. So now it feels like it's starting to come together. Like what the yogis and the Eastern medicine practices are been doing and what the Western, they're all starting to come together. And it's a beautiful thing, actually. In fact, just an aside, I know this yoga therapist, and she posted something on Facebook, and I'm not going to remember the hospital now, but this woman who's a yoga therapist and does all this kind of work has now brought yoga therapy into this big university hospital. And they're taking these teachings, pranayama and yin yoga and restorative yoga and all these things into the world of the university and the hospital. I thought that was fabulous. So just a little quick overview about this program. We've already told you, we're going to give you a lot of tools and a lot of information in this 4 weeks. We have a guest speaker coming that's all about the energy body. She's an expert in this field. So each module, we have a different presenter come. That's not just Chris and I. And you get to hang on to the content for a year. So ideally, if you took all the modules, you would have all 4 modules for the whole year. If you only take one, then you have that one module for the year. Okay, so you can come back, look at the videos. Everything is recorded. So like I said to Chris, the guest presenter we had in our first module talked a lot about the diaphragm and the relationship that the diaphragm has with not only the breathing, but the physical body. It was fascinating to listen to her. Well, that's on module 1. We'll take some of that information and bring it into module 2 for sure, so that you have all that information. But it's going to be May 16th through June 11th. Our coaching sessions are on Mondays at 5 Mountain and 7 Eastern. And then we have a follow-up Q&A, live Q&A on Zoom, either Wednesday or Thursday. We haven't set it yet. All the normal stuff, email support, Facebook support. And what's unique to our program is we created what's called a signature roadmap that we will use as we go along these 4 weeks, so that you have at the end your own personal roadmap that you can follow. We did it for the physical body. Now we're going to do it for the breath and the energy body. And then in September, we do our next one, which is all about the mental body. So if you're interested, go check out the landing page. We'll send it to you, and it's out on Facebook and it's all over the place. And if you have any questions, you can ask them now.
Oh, I know. Sue, was there a price for the all 4 modules and then the individual price for each one? Can you tell me, like, if you missed the first one, what, I'm wondering what.
What we did was anybody who purchases any of the modules get a 50% discount if they, not a 50%, $50 discount on their next module. So it'll be cheaper overall if you take all of them, or if
Okay.
you only take 1 or 2. So the people that did the first one paid the full price. And for this next one, if they sign up, they get $50 off. So if you take this one at full price and you take the next one, it'll be $50 off.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. So it was $297 for this, for the masterclass coming up for the breathing one, and then it would be $247 next time.
Right.
If and will you repeat will you repeat module 1 again at some point, or is it something that I'll want to look for information, or
No, we'll probably do it again at the beginning of next year. The intention with our program was to create something that we could do each year, growing and embellishing the content as we go. And, so people could have an opportunity, because there were people that didn't do the first one that really wanted to, but timing wasn't working for them. So we said, stay tuned.
Yeah. And the other thing that I think makes our program a little different is we want to keep it small and intimate, so that we feel like we're really making a connection with everyone that's in our program. So it's not like, Sue and I have both taken online programs that are huge, and there's no way, they're great, and most of them are a lot more expensive, but you feel like you're just one in a crowd. This, we wanted to keep it small and personal.
Yeah. Yeah.
thank you.
And, I think I put this in one of the posts, but one of our people who had never taken programs with us before, she took our module 1. And at the end, she sent me this lovely email, and she said, I have taken so many programs, both in person and online, and I have never, ever had the creators or the presenters of the program contact me directly to ask me specific questions, to make sure I had my signature roadmap, to really make sure that they got, she got what she needed from the program. And I was thankful that she said that, because that was our intention all along, so that people didn't feel like they were just sort of like a number and, come and take the program and leave, and, oh, well, that there was some follow-up and a real connection. And you guys know us, this is how we work. This is how we do things. So we really appreciate you being here today. It's helped us, kind of formulate our ideas around when we actually present it, we're like, yeah, this is what we want to talk about. This is really important stuff. It really, truly is. So we appreciate you. I'm going to stop sharing the screen and see all your beautiful faces. And if there's anything anybody else wants to share before we say goodbye, speak now.
Thank you all for being here. We know your time's important. We appreciate you deciding to share it with us.
Yeah, great. See you on the screen.
Happy wedding.
Oh, thanks so much. Thanks so much.